Is a Viper Professional Training and Support webinar. Today's date is January 22nd, 2024. This is a Monday night webinar, and the title of tonight's webinar is Come See the New Auto Fib Trader. And of course, the release is going to be pretty soon on that. And I'll go over some of the things that are going to be added to it also. But what I'm going to show here in just a couple of minutes, I just want to show you how well you can actually trade if you do this type of trade setups and everything, okay? Let me just show you something here. Bear with me a second. Now I've got this actually on some just simple bars. I just use some Renko bars so that we could get some, good, basically showing it on the chart. It doesn't have my indicators or anything on it, but let me show you what happens with Fibonacci's. And this was the whole idea behind the Fibonacci trader. Now, this Fibonacci trader is going to be different than anybody's that got out there, because most Fibonacci traders will use chart trader, and they'll pretty much, you'll draw them and then you'll have to redraw them and you'll have to redraw them and everything else. But this does not have to be redrawn. You can simply set it at the bottom of a swing, and you'll notice, for instance, that when it gets to a nice area, you'll get those nice little bounces. See that 38%? That was a huge bounce, by the way. That was overnight. That was way before anybody got up. But you know what? We actually took that trade this morning. My son and I did. And this was a beauty. It came right to the 38% and bounced. Then what do you think happened after I opened the room? Well, look at this. You had a perfect thrust up. This may get a little bit confusing, hopefully not. Let me see if I can get this a little bit more away from that top. Notice that you had this thrust up right here and this beautiful retrace right here. That's 50 to 61% retracement. That doesn't look like a lot, by the way, but these are big bars. So these are good moves. Okay, and by the way, these trades were called in the room, and you can actually see that if you had something that would actually trade these, you could do pretty well. Look at this thrust here, thrust, retrace, right to the 50%. Okay, so I developed a little trader with Object Trader that will actually take those trades, and let me just put it on the chart real quick, and then we're going to put it in playback mode, and I'm going to show you how this thing actually does work. But first, let me go ahead and explain a little bit about it. Okay, bear with me a second. And I'm going to go ahead and put Object Trader on the chart. And by the way, the version of this is going to be 3.40, I believe. It may be 3.41 or 2 by the time you get it. Okay, but let me get some data on here. I forgot I don't have data on here. Bear with it just a second, it's loading the data. This is a Viper Professional Training and Support webinar. Today's date is January 22nd, 2024. This is a Monday night webinar, and the title of tonight's webinar is Come See the New Auto Fib Trader. And of course, the release is going to be pretty soon on that. And I'll go over some of the things that are going to be added to it also. But what I'm going to show here in just a couple of minutes, I just want to show you how well you can actually trade if you do this type of trade setups and everything, okay? Let me just show you something here. Bear with me a second. Now I've got this actually on some just simple bars. I just use some Renko bars so that we could get some, good, basically showing it on the chart. It doesn't have my indicators or anything on it. But let me show you what happens with Fibonacci's. And this was the whole idea behind the Fibonacci trader. Now, this Fibonacci trader is going to be different than anybody's that got out there, because most Fibonacci traders will use chart trader, and they'll pretty much, you'll draw them and then you'll have to redraw them and you'll have to redraw them and everything else. But this does not have to be redrawn. You can simply set it at the bottom of a swing, and you'll notice, for instance, that when it gets to a nice area, you'll get those nice little bounces. See that 38%? That was a huge bounce, by the way. That was overnight. That was way before anybody got up. But you know what? We actually took that trade this morning. My son and I did. And this was a beauty. It came right to the 38% and bounced. Then what do you think happened after I opened the room? Well, look at this. You had a perfect thrust up. This may get a little bit confusing, hopefully not. Let me see if I can get this a little bit more away from that top. Notice that you had this thrust up right here and this beautiful retrace right here. That's 50 to 61% retracement. That doesn't look like a lot, by the way, but these are big bars. So these are good moves, okay? And by the way, these trades were called in the room, and you can actually see that if you had something that would actually trade these, you could do pretty well. Look at this thrust here, thrust, retrace, right to the 50%, okay? So I developed a little trader with Object Trader that will actually take those trades, and let me just put it on the chart real quick, and then we're going to put it in playback mode, and I'm going to show you how this thing actually does work this, and see if you couldn't have gotten that trade that we talked about right here, okay? See, here's 730 right here on ES. You'll notice that, matter of fact, this little trade right here that's set up, look at the Fibonacci that is on this. Look at this right here. See how that's a 50%? So you're going to actually be able to tell it that you want like a 50% trade. And it's going to fire that trade the second it gets within X ticks of that Fibonacci level. You're going to be able to tell it you want to 61 also maybe, but maybe it won't fire it. It just comes to this 50 instead. So you're going to have total control over using this thing exactly the way you want to use it. Let me go ahead and bring this over and show you right about where we're at. Okay, let's see. This is at the end of the day again right here, isn't it? Let's see. This thing does this all the time. We're going to try it one more time, and if it doesn't work, I'll just show you on the chart, and we won't worry about anything except seeing what transpired. Okay, there's 7 a.m. If that'll go ahead and do our 7 a.m., there it looks like it did that time. Okay, so let me ask you a question. If you saw this, and let me get rid of TeamViewer. Somebody was on TeamViewer a little bit earlier. Okay, you saw this and you said, okay, you know what? I'm up at 7 o'clock, but this thing's already run. So what you'd simply do is you turn on your little strategy called Object Trader, all right? And we'll go ahead and go to playback. And that little square will let me do that. And then I've got these little fibs right here, which I can actually draw, okay? So see, that's telling me that this thrust, right about this 50%, should be a very nice little trade. So I've got a little trader on here called the new Auto Fib. And what you do to put the Auto Fib on the chart, and I'll have the template made to where you won't have to do anything like I'm doing right now. You'll just simply put your Auto Fib OT on your chart, okay? And you'll apply it. And then this Auto Fib OT is not like these Auto Fibs. These are just simply indicators. They show you where the trade might set up. This will take the trade. So if I click this, put this on right here, and then I say, you know what? I want that 50%, but maybe I want to take it with about a 2-tick offset. I can do that just simply by turning this on. Now this is actually telling it that I want to take an Auto Fib at 50, okay, by simply going under my object types and telling it that I want that 50%. What if I wanted the 61.8? Okay, I can do that, and I just tell it however many contracts I want to do. Okay, so when that actually comes down to that 50% right there, within X ticks, I could fire a long trade, and it'll actually do that as you're on your chart in real time. Now, this is also called a mid-band trade. And by the way, I called this trade in the room this morning. It took to around 8 o'clock-ish right when I opened the room. But let me just show you what happens with these charts. And to show you that this happens all the time, I'm going to show you several trade setups that actually worked out quite nicely. And they were called in real time too. Our Auto Fib, though, will also, if this happens to go up higher, the Auto Fib will trail it. okay? So my 50% is right here, right this very moment. But if this goes on up, this will go up with it, okay? Because it's an auto fib. It's drawing from down here. It's telling me that I want the 50%, okay? But if it goes higher, that 50% may go up a little higher because being an auto fib, it's looking at the Fibonacci from here to here. But what if this becomes here instead? Then the 50 will go up with it, okay? How do you know the starting point for the fib, Stephen? I teach that quite well. You know, I personally like to get a pretty good retracement. Like, just to give you an example, if you draw lightning 3 on your chart, so that's pretty much ABC type move. I like the ABC to get a fib, or even this part of it too. But if I did this part of it, then I'm going to probably look for a 61, because I like a pretty good thrust to be able to get 50%. This fib right here, let's just change it to it instead. All right, we'll just turn that off. We'll turn this back on. Then this would be your 50% right there at mid-band, and then your 61 right here. So what I could do, I could say, okay, I want the 50 and my 61. I turn this on MT, which means it's multi-trade, and then it'll actually take that trade when it comes down there, okay? We're also adding, just so everybody knows, we're adding a new stop on Object Trader also, that you'll be able to actually choose these lines to have your stop at, okay? Which can be very powerful, because you'll find out that when they're really moving these, they stay in this band. They do real well at staying in this band. So we like that when it does that. So we're going to be able to say, okay, if we get in a mid-band trade and I see there's a swing right there, see the high, the low, the higher high, I automatically know that that swing right here should not be taken out on a pullback. So that kind of tells me to use line 3 as my stop. See, because they're not going to take this out if they're going to really truly head up, because the definition of an uptrend is higher highs and higher lows. And if they don't get that, then you want to get out of that trade pretty quick, okay? This little trader, though, the way it's designed, if it gets within 2 ticks of that line right there, it will fire the trade. If it gets within 2 ticks of this one, it will also fire the trade, because we got them, well, we turned them off because we redid the chart. There's your auto fib turned on, your MT's turned on, your LE's turned on, okay? And it's just a matter of waiting for the trade to come to you, okay? In my trading room, each and every day, I draw on the charts to tell my people, my traders, where the next trade is. And Fibonacci's are a big, big part of it. I mean, you can get some of the best trades that you've ever seen in your life at Fibonacci's. They're just awesome, okay? Watch and see what happens on this. We'll just do this a little bit faster and let it do its thing. But you'll watch the Fibonacci will actually change in real time if it takes out that top, okay? Now, if it doesn't take out that top, these fibs should stay about where they're at, okay? But it is an auto fib, so it will trail with the prices. That's why we like it so much, because we'll actually draw a swing and let our auto fib draw where our next trade is, okay? We also know our line in the sand long short is right here, so anything above this, we're looking for longs. I teach that in my room all the time too. Okay, see, that's like a 38% so far. Believe me, when you get this type of a thrust like this, you're really looking for this 50s and 61s. Okay, let's see, is there a chance of having line 038 with offsets for entries as well? Well, you can already do that, Diane. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of math to do it, because like see there, within 2 ticks, okay? Now, you'll notice that we could also turn this back on, see, and there's our, we didn't hit our 61.8 yet, did we? But look at that, that actually just fired the trade, and that's it. It's a Fibonacci retracement trade. Okay, see how it's just kissing that area right there? We actually took this trade in the trading room this morning, and that turned out to be a pretty decent little trade. Okay, But you can actually, I want to show you something here. You can actually start drawing your Fibonacci even from where it's shooting from right now. This is a cool part about trading to me. See this little swing right here? Well, guess what? If you actually take this Fibonacci, turn it off, turn it back on, and go right here, turn these off, make sure they're not going to fire anything, you'll be surprised. See how that's coming back to that 61 right there? See, and now it's kissing just a little bit lower. Notice it kissed a little swing, no big deal, right? And could you actually then say, you know what, I want it when it takes out the 61 again? Well, you could do that by simply turning that on and adding a contract if you wanted to, okay? This trade was called live in the room this morning, and it literally basically bounced off of a 50 and almost hit a 61. And you're going to see that over and over and over when you're trading. It's just a cool way to trade. But let's go ahead and draw our fibs. We now have a little swing, so let's draw our fib. All right. This right here, you're getting a little bit higher low. What if you weren't in a trade just yet? What if you said, you know what? Well, it came down to the 61, so you would have gotten that. I was trying to do that, but I've got it going 20 times normal speed. Okay, but this is actually just a really cool way to trade. See, I could put this on 61, turn that on. There's 50. See that Fibonacci right there? Isn't that beautiful? That's not a bad way. By the way, we didn't move our targets and everything because I've got this thing going literally 20 times speed. But this trade was called in the room, and guess how we would basically manage this trade too, because I told everybody in the room to draw a trend line underneath your lows, and we've got another tool called a trend line trader, and you can actually activate it right here. And let's say that you had 2 or 3 on. You just simply set this, and when it breached that trend line, you sold everything. And we did that live this morning. And this, like I say, this particular way of trading is just pretty solid, okay? And if you don't believe that, just simply do it again, okay? Where's your swing? Well, it's right here, isn't it? Okay, so could you actually say, you know what? Let's get rid of all our lines on our chart. We're only going like 4 times speed now, so let's just do a Fibonacci on here. All right, and we'll go from here. Activate it like that, click it, okay? And what are we shooting for? Well, if this doesn't take out this top, there's my 50. I can simply say, okay, I want my 50. We'll turn the trend line off, put it on 50 and 61.8, turn it on, couple of contracts, and if it gets down there, it'll take that trade. Let's see if it gets down there. I like Fibonacci. There you go. And we just got within 2 ticks of it. Pretty good way to trade, I can tell you this, because over and over and over, they do quite well at this. Could you then even add, you know, for instance, you're in 2 and you wanted to add when it breaks this little swing? Well, we've got a little tool here called region. And if it breaks that region, what if I wanted to add 2 or 1? Maybe I just want to add 1. And it'll add it if it takes out the top of that region by 2 ticks. I've got all kinds of object types here that I can trade. See, I've got my region on, I've got my Auto Fib. There you go. My little box turns pinky colored, so I know that I've used it. And then off you go, you got you another great trade. Okay, but let me show you how to stay in a trade too, okay? Because we do this all the time. We simply go, you know what? We're going to do a trend line. We're going to draw it underneath our lows. Brings our trend line up there. We don't want it up there, obviously. We want it down here. And as we get these little pullbacks, we can actually turn on that trend line trader so that it takes us out of the trade. Let's say that I'm in 2 and I want to go ahead and take it out. Well, I had that turned on long, so Anyway, if you had a trend line drawn, you could actually simply get out of this trade. See how that's kind of double topping? You can even put on an auto region type of a trade, bring it up here and do it where if it happens to take out the bottom of the deal, you take those off, just that easy. And it's by 2, so see it didn't actually hit it. That takes 2 plus 1. And if it does hit it, it'll take that off the table. So I've developed some really good tools for you. You'll have to learn them because there's a little bit to them, but it's not that difficult to understand how this whole thing works, because I've actually added tools like regions that you can do on the fly. I've added bar close that you can do on the fly. I've got trend power dots, lightning trades, predictor trades, stealth trades, trend line trades, and now Auto Fib. And this Auto Fib will make a world of difference in how you do in your trading. Because if you stop and think about it, okay, right now you've got a swing right here, right? If it takes this out by quite a bit, then you could go for another Fibonacci. Okay, and it's just a matter, okay, so we like a 50. 50 is going to be right about through here. See that? What about 61.8 right here? Okay, but this will keep you on the right side of the trade, and of course you can get out of any of these trades by simply just using your box. And I've got 2 contracts short, which are long now, so it would obviously just take me out of 2.